Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is working on a wheel horse B-100. Blowing smoke like crazy. It sat for about 5 years, so I'm thinking the rings and stuff are shot. So I got a new ring set, gasket kit and stuff, but I've never worked on one of these engines. So it is a Kohler K241, and I couldn't find anything on YouTube as far as like disassembling it or anything like that. So I'm just kind of learning as I go here. It's definitely not a engine I'm familiar with, but I figure we'll give it a shot. What's the worst it can do but smoke again? So right now I'm just draining the oil out of it and started unhooking everything, trying to keep it labeled so I know where everything goes. So haven't done a video in a long time. I think the longest video I've done was probably the Cub 2A2 Hydro flood project. So we'll see how this one turns out. The thing is, like I said, learning as I go, but is this drive belt. I need to figure out how to get that off so I can remove the engine. And what I did is I bought, I guess these are recopies or something of the original parts manuals. I got 3 of them in the pack for B-100s, B-100s. So I'm hoping they prove to be a little bit helpful. As you can see, I've got buckets of parts. Like I said, I'm trying to label them so I know where they go back on. I'm hoping that once I get this engine off and I get the head off of it, I hope I don't have to pull anything else apart. As long as I can get to the bottom of the piston, just pull the piston out and just slide it, re-ring it, clean it up, put it back in. Because apparently there's more than in these base, I guess it's a base to the tractor. I took 2 off that I could see, but I still can't move the engine. So I'm thinking there's probably more bolts hidden underneath there somewhere. It tells you need to take off the belt guard to get to this belt. What they decline to tell you is you got to take off the footrest, lift the seat, piss around with that cross support. Oh, geez, what a freaking disaster. So I figured before I even reassemble, I'm putting a new belt on that because I am not going to mess with that later. Also, I see it has got a tranny filter, so I'll probably end up changing that out before I put this back together. I think I'm definitely going to get a little bit more time and stuff involved in this than what I was figuring. So everything's free, the belt's free. I got all my block bolts out. I've been trying to rock the engine back and forth to get it to break free of the base gasket, and I should be able just to lift this right off. In theory, that doesn't seem to be the case. So I don't know exactly what these are for. I mean, none of my manuals say what they're for. I don't know if they screw into this base gasket or this base or what, but I cannot get this engine to break loose, and I don't want to rail on it too hard because I don't want to break it. I don't want to split the cast. I'm really starting to hate this engine. I'm really starting to hate this tractor. I mean, in theory, this should just rock back and forth and pop right off, but that's in theory. Everything works in theory, even communism. But yeah, it's really just starting to piss me off here. I only got the engine off. Gasket was just stuck that bad, but I didn't want to force it, so I took my time and eventually got it off. Started cleaning out the sump pan. Got to blow that, let that dry, and then blow out the pieces of gasket and stuff that I was scraping off. Tell you what, that engine was heavier than I thought it was going to be. Damn near killed myself getting it off. But anyhow, got it off. What I'd like to try to find is I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to do the piston, the rings and stuff by myself, because the last one I did, I thought I did it correctly. Turned out I had the rings on the piston wrong, and blew the original engine off that Cub 282, so I had to repower that with another 8 horse. Got the original engine still sitting on the shelf. So I'm not sure if my local machine shop over in Sunbury will be able to do that. Imagine it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, but maybe I'll post on Craigslist, see if there's anybody local here in Selinsgrove that would be willing to do that. So when I get it back, I can just get everything back together and get this thing ready for winter. What you didn't get to see, because I couldn't figure out how to set my camera up, is I lapped the valves, and so you have to pull them all out. Compressor springs with the tool. They have these 2 little clips on the end that are bugger to get back on, so just watch yourself with that. But anyhow, I lapped these both. I had gotten gasket set and rings, but what I found out was, after I ordered the rings, I was mistaken. I don't know if you can see that or not. These are for a bore of 20 over. My engine is not a 20 over. It says right on the piston that it is a 10. And there's no play in this at all. So I'm not sure what the deal is. If it was just from sitting that many years. But I'm going to pull the piston and I'm going to replace the rings and install it back on the tractor. And hopefully it won't smoke anymore. Because I'll tell you the truth, I'll never work on one of these Kohlers again. I just don't care much for this tractor. I don't care much for this engine. So if I put it on, it still smokes, I'm parting this whole freaking thing out. I could probably make more money on parting it out than I'll ever get out of selling it. You get that out, I don't know how good you guys can see. You can see this little oil hole here. Just try to remember which side that you put that on. You should have one side that's a little bit painted. If it's original, match the other side of your connecting rod, from what the book tells me. And this little oil hole, you want to make sure that's the same way on your crank. Now you guys really can't see in there because if I move the camera it's going to screw it up, but there's not a lot of travel or wear on that crank in there, so we're going to be good to go there. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push on them 2 bolts and push the cylinder or the piston right out the other side. So I don't know how good you guys are going to see this. Try to put you here somewhere you can see. I just gave it just a little push and it's coming out really easy. You just be really careful because you don't want to hit the sides of your wall. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a good look over. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. I'm not sure why it would be getting oil past it. This is just from years of sitting. So I'm going to clean this piston up, get these old rings off, clean this piston up, and see what the new rings look like. I hope this makes the difference. These rings are going to fit a little bit snug once you get them in the bore. Compared to the old ones I took out, you couldn't even hardly see them sticking out past the channels that they're supposed to ride in. So I'm hoping once you get these compressed, it'll work better. What was really weird is the old oil ring, or not oil ring, but what would you call it? Scraper ring. I don't know how well you guys can see the profile of it. Does not have a groove. It's an almost exact copy of what the top ring was. I was always under the impression, from what I was reading, that the scraper looks like this. Figure 2 here, or 3. See how it has that scraper? But my top and bottom one look like this. So I have no idea. We'll see once we get it in the compressor and see if it fits back in the bore. Alright, that went together way too easy. The piston ring, piston, everything slid in really nice. Lubed everything up real good. So what I did next was I cleaned out the oil pan. I left that installed on a tractor. What I'm going to try to do is set the gasket. Get this heavy sucker over there and mount it on without having the gasket slide around. I have to wait till somebody in the house wakes up because I'm going to need 2 sets of hands, I think, for this. And my sidekick Bubba, he is in the hospital. Kind of has me bugged a little bit. I guess he had some shortness of breath and stuff. So they admitted him last night, but he's usually my second pair of hands. So this is wishing that Bubba get out soon. So I'll wait till somebody in the house wakes up and we'll get this mounted on. Now I got the engine mounted. Carburetor's back on. Belts are ran. Throttle cable's hooked up. Choke cable's hooked up. I don't think it's the way it's supposed to be. But it's the only way I can figure out. Fortunately, I didn't take enough pictures when I disassembled it. I should have took more. But everything's hooked up for now. I really need to see if this thing runs and smokes before I put any more time in it. I need 2 quarts of straight 30 oil. That's what the book says that'll hold. And then we'll be able to give it a test fire.